A lot of news to go over on this News of the Week episode on Wednesday, which shouldn't surprise anyone if you have watched my past News of the Week episode, and you know that Wednesday is usually the one that is the longest and have the most news, and there's going to be 14 news topics that I'm going to be talking about in this video. But we start off with the Quakes officially announced today that Cristian Espinoza is going to be signed on a permanent deal. And the only reason why I did not make a single video about this is we kind of knew that this was going to happen. I mentioned yesterday in that video that I talked about Sporting KC getting Alan Pulido that it seemed like the Quakes are going to get Espinoza, knowing the fact that they kind of did a little bit of a teaser video that clearly is a hint that they're going to sign Espinoza on a permanent base, which they officially got the deal done today. And it's actually a record-breaking deal as they sign him, from what I report, $2.3 million, which is about $300,000 more than the previous transfer record that we got, which was MPG a couple years ago. And I understand that, I know there are a couple of Quakes fans thinking that, you know, they're happy that Espinoza is signed on a permanent deal, but the thing is, they would really love to have Pulido into this team too, which I understand that. I would definitely love to see Pulido into this team, but I just feel like if there is an option of us getting either Espinoza or Pulido in this team, I would choose Espinoza because, you know, yes, Pulido is a guy that has scored a lot of goals and was the Golden Boot winner, but Espinoza is the guy that creates the chances for our team. And if you don't have the guy that creates your chance to the team and give those service to your striker, then it doesn't matter if he's a top goal scorer in Liga MX. He's going to struggle in terms of getting the service. So I feel like it's more important for us to get Espinoza signed on a permanent deal. And now I hope the Quakes, you know, this is not going to be the last big move of the offseason. They still have a DP slot open, which I'm hoping they're going to use that as a way to spend big, either looking at a central attacking mid or looking at a striker, because this team clearly needs a goal scorer. The Whitecaps report to pay at least $5 million to get Lucas Cavallini. So in the last episode, I talked about how the Whitecaps were rumored to try to get him, and it seemed like they're going to have to pay at least $5 million. It's definitely a hefty price, and I think that would break the record for the Whitecaps in terms of their record feed. I mean, this offseason, we have already seen a couple of teams have break their transfer record, and I won't be surprised we're going to see more teams break their transfer record as the league continues, because right now it's clear that most of these teams know that the league is moving to a point where you're going to have to start spending big, and that you can't just penny pinch your way to try to get to the top of the table. So, you know, the Whitecaps, obviously they desperately need to get some goal scoring help, and they want to be those teams that are willing to spend to get themselves up the table. And I think getting Lucas Cavallini will definitely help if they are going to at least pay $5 million to try to get him. Inter Miami have rumored to sign Roger Martinez from Club America, and I heard this is going to be a DP kind of contract. And if this deal does move on, that means it's clear that Miami is not going to bring those kind of big European star that Beckham kind of said that he was going to bring to Miami, because I think if they're going to get Martinez on a DP, that should be all the DP slot that Miami has filled up already. And, you know, Roger Martinez, he's okay from what I heard when he is playing for his country, but I've also heard from Club America fans saying that he seems to be lazy at times and seems to go on a little bit of a dry spell at times. So I don't know if this is a good idea for Inter Miami to get him, but you know, nowadays Inter Miami is just basically rumored with everybody, and that it's really hard to see whenever they get rumored with someone that is it actually going to be something that's going to happen, or is this just some of these crazy rumors that in a couple of days it's just going to fade out and drizzle out. Marcelo Gallardo says he's staying at River Plate despite the fact that there's rumors that he is going to manage Inter Miami. And, you know, I'm telling you, the Inter Miami right now, this offseason has been very it's been very unorthodox of them. And it's been an offseason where there's kind of having a little bit issue in terms of either getting a big time player to join their team, or the fact that they're just getting a manager. Like, they've been rumored with a lot of big name kind of manager, and Marcelo Gallardo is one of those name that was rumored to go to Miami, but it seemed like now he is saying no, and he wants to stay at River Plate, which it's understandable why he wants to stay at River Plate, because he just brought that team to the Libertadores, and I believe he also won the Libertadores last year when River Plate played Boca in the finals. So he's perfectly happy with the place that he wants to be, and it just kind of makes no sense if he's going to take a River Plate team that has already won a couple of trophies in the past couple of years, and he decided to leave to join a team that have not won any trophy and just start in MLS. TFC rumored to bring back Michael Bradley on a TAM contract, and I think this should probably be great for TFC fans to hear, because, you know, there's been a lot of discussion about whether or not if Michael Bradley is going to be coming back to Toronto. Obviously, he was going to come back to Toronto if TFC won the MLS Cup, because, as I mentioned before, there's this very strange kind of contract clause in Michael Bradley where if TFC won MLS Cup, then it would automatically trigger, I believe, a $6 million contract on Michael Bradley. Now, unfortunately, that contract clause is not going to trigger because TFC didn't win MLS Cup, and now it seemed like Michael Bradley, instead of potentially getting paid $6 million, which is, I think, the highest amount a player that has been paid so far in their contract, and so far going to make him the highest paid player in the league, he's going to have to settle with a TAM contract, which would be so much less than the $6 million that he was going to get if TFC did win MLS Cup. Sporting KC report to add Vélez Sarsfield captain Lorero Giannatti to their squad, and you know, yesterday I talked about how they got Polito, and they kind of now look like they all of a sudden look very stacked going forward, and that the only thing that I think Sporting KC can really just pretty much get this rebuild done in just one off season is just get some center backs and get some help in the back four. Well, it seemed like they are doing exactly that by rumor to get Lorero Giannatti. Don't know much about this guy, but you know, it's clear that Sporting KC are desperate in terms of trying to fix their back line problems so that they can, of course, get back into the playoff race heading into next season. The Galaxy added Sasha Kljestan as a free agent. So last episode I talked about how there was a rumor that he's going to go to LA and join the Galaxy, and this rumor is now true, and that he of course signed as a free agent, and I think it's a good signing for the Galaxy. I mean, they don't really need to pay anything to get him since he is a free agent, but the thing is, they still have to offer him a bit of a contract, and I guess he can slot in very well in that midfield role. Not quite sure if he's going to be a regular starter for this team, since I know Orlando City fans have been saying that Sasha Kljestan, he has not looked like the same guy as he was a couple of years ago when he was with the Red Bulls. But it's good to add some experience in the midfield, and you know, let's see whether or not if this is going to work out for the Galaxy. Now, the Galaxy rival LAFC signs USL standout Denny Musvetsky just yesterday, and for the Quakes fan that probably recognize this name, that's because he was drafted with the Quakes just 2 years ago. I think it was either in the first round or in the second round that we drafted him. He's been spending most of his time on loan at Reno 1868, but it seemed like the Quakes decided to not really bring him back, and LAFC basically decided to sign him. And you know, I don't know. We'll see how good he is. I think if you get let go by the Quakes, that means you are probably not gonna be good enough in a level that you can be in an MLS team and just be even just a reserve kind of player. But we shall see how this deal, of course, went out, and whether or not if this is just him just rotting on the bench at LAFC. Jesus Ferreira has agreed to a new 4-year contract extension to FC Dallas. He's not the only player that got contract extension, as Frederick Briand of the DC United defender also got a new contract, and it's a 2-year contract extension to DC United. Both of them, I think, makes perfect sense of why their club wanted to sign them to a contract extension. I mean, Jesus Ferreira, he's definitely developed to be a very decent striker, and Frederick Briand, a very decent center back in that DC United back line. So makes sense. Both of these teams want to sign them to a contract extension. DC United also signed Bill Hamid on a permanent deal, and this means that DC United, of course, are able to secure the transfer of Bill Hamid to the club that they actually sold him just a couple of years ago, but now they've decided to bring him back on a permanent deal. And that, for those of you wondering, last year when Bill Hamid was playing for DC United, he was not on a permanent deal. He was actually just on loan on the club that DC sell him at the first place. And I think this is just one of those situations where, you know, a guy that wanted to go to Europe, it didn't work out, so we basically... Oh, whoa, I accidentally removed the pop filter there. Kind of scare you guys a little bit, but, you know, this is just a case where a guy that was sold off to Europe and that, you know, it didn't quite work out in the end, so we decided to kind of buy him back, and that is the situation that Bill Hamid finds himself in. And that's kind of the same case with Kyrie Shilton, which he decided that he's going to be returning to SKC after a year in Germany. This is another guy that SKC sold him off to Paderborn. Didn't work out there, and now SKC decided to bring him back. And originally, when this was announced, and this was before the Polito signing, a lot of SKC fans were kind of happy that he's back, but they were also a little bit skeptical the fact that he's going to be the guy that's going to solve the issue of the lack of striker of this team. Now, obviously, with Polito now going to SKC, now this signing does make more sense, as he could definitely be a good second striker for SKC need, and a guy that could maybe even come off the bench for Polito if Peter Vermees decided to go just with the lone striker going forward. But the other news in terms of guys signed on a permanent deal is Emerson Hyndman, who Atlanta United have signed him on a permanent deal from Bournemouth. And, you know, this is a guy that I think is one of the most favorite player for Frank de Boer, because he seems to always play him, and now it seemed like they're going to sign him on a permanent deal. And he was very decent last year, and I guess maybe this is also another example, like Bill Hamid and Kyrie Shilton, that when they go to Europe in a young age, it didn't quite work out. Now I'm going back to the States, and I'm going to join one of the best team in the league and compete in the league. I mean, I know there are a lot of people say that these players, if they'll never be considered to be in the national team if they just don't go to Europe. Well, sometimes, you know, going to Europe isn't really for everyone, and sometimes when players decide to go to Europe, sometimes it just does not fit on them. Like this notion of the fact that these players need to go to Europe if they want to develop their career is just isn't the case anymore. And especially how the league is moving into a more kind of competitive and kind of a more events kind of league that it was a couple of years ago. I just think that it's getting to a point where in the future time, and maybe in 20 or 30 years, we're going to see more players don't really need to go to Europe in terms of continue to develop their play, and we're probably going to see more national team players that actually did not go to Europe, but they play for their MLS team, but they did well in MLS, and now they could do well again with the national team. But, you know, that's what I kind of feel like. I kind of feel like this notion of just going to Europe to help you develop your career is just getting a little bit overrated. But let me know in the comments below. You know, you can disagree with me with the fact that maybe that is the bottom line. You know, you have to go to Europe if you want to get into the next level. Chicago Fire looking to interview Basel sporting director Georg Hertz as their new sporting director. And by the way, this is actually the final news of this news of the week. It was actually quite quick that I actually gone through every bit of these news. But, you know, the final news talk about the Chicago Fire looking to try to interview Basel sporting director Georg Hertz as their new sporting director. You know, he is a guy that has brought some very well-known player to Basel and able to sell them off to bigger clubs. So I think that should definitely be a good kind of guy to take control of the sporting director job for the Chicago Fire. But keep in mind, this is just a news that talked about that they interview him, and that it didn't say that they will report that they're getting close in terms of signing him. I mean, we've seen before where there's news talk about how clubs are interviewing a player or just somebody that is going to be working in the front office or in the general management kind of position, that sometimes just because they're getting interviewed doesn't mean that they will automatically accept the job, and that, you know, we will know in a couple of weeks that he's going to be the new sporting director of our team because we just interviewed him so far. So yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for this news of the week episode. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of all these news, and if there's any news that I missed out on, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.